My name is Lieutenant Commander Dheeraj Yadav. So I come from a military background, and my introduction to cybersecurity is when I was 6 years old in 1996. And my uncle, who was serving the army, later I came to know that he was serving in intelligence when he retired and I joined. And he showed me a PC, and I was mesmerized by seeing what this thing is. And there were still games. He played, well, he pressed the key, and there was one animal's voice out of that. I'm talking about 1996. So all of you veterans know it well, Mir sir. But for me, it was an amazing thing. That is how my interest in computers came. But later on, one fine day, he was not at home, and I wanted to access that. Couldn't. So thought it was asking for some password. I asked my uncle, okay, uncle, can I have the password? He said, in our native language, which is Haryanvi, bhai tod saka to tod le. Okay. And I thought, how can this be done? Sir there is laughing, but how many of us know that when Windows 95 was released, there was the maximum in the first week, all of us do OSINT today, in the very first week, the maximum copies which were bought in Russia. Why I'm saying this is, there was a code released within next 3 months, and the code was called as CHNTPW. Change password, and Windows NT's password could be changed. The code is still very much relevant because the basic architecture of Windows is still the same. So that means we need to know the basics. So we have to start from the basics, and we need to know the basics of anything to make a great product. Okay. So as I mentioned, I come from a military background. So I served for 10 years in the Indian Navy, and in multiple domains, including but not limited to submarines, intelligence, cyber intelligence. Then I served as CISO India Shelter Finance Corporation Limited, which is approximately $1 billion plus financial company, which gave me the aspect of governance in the civil domain. So the governance in military and the governance in civil domain is completely different. I'm talking about the implementation part, and currently I'm serving as CISO at Mitigata.
So online footage of that rural area. Thanks for pointing out that. Thank you very much, people. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, a big round of applause, please, for Mr. Sumi Satyesan. Let's hear it. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is somebody who's going to be talking up on the stage, Tech Talk, prepare, mitigate, and ensure. Somebody who's a Lieutenant Commander, Dheeraj Yadav. Everyone, come on, let's hear a big one. CISO, Mitigata. Can we hear a big one for you, sir? Thank you.
Well, good evening to all of you. My name is Lieutenant Commander Dheeraj Yadav. So I come from a military background, and my introduction to cybersecurity is when I was 6 years old in 1996. And my uncle, who was serving the army, later I came to know that he was serving in intelligence when he retired and I joined. And he showed me a PC, and I was mesmerized by seeing what this thing is. And there were still games. He played, well, he pressed the key, and there was one animal's voice out of that. I'm talking about 1996. So all of you veterans know it well, Mir sir. But for me, it was an amazing thing. That is how my interest in computers came. But later on, one fine day, he was not at home, and I wanted to access that. Couldn't. So thought it was asking for some password. I asked my uncle, okay, uncle, can I have the password? He said, in our native language, which is Haryanvi, bhai tod saka to tod le. Okay. And I thought, how can this be done? Sir there is laughing, but how many of us know that when Windows 95 was released, there was the maximum in the first week, all of us do OSINT today, in the very first week, the maximum copies which were bought in Russia. Why I'm saying this is, there was a code released within next 3 months, and the code was called as CHNTPW. Change password, and Windows NT's password could be changed. The code is still very much relevant because the basic architecture of Windows is still the same. So that means we need to know
online footage of that rural area. Thanks for pointing out that. Thank you very much, people. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, a big round of applause, please, for Mr. Sumit Satyasan. Let's hear it. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is somebody who's going to be talking up on the stage, Tech Chalk, prepare, mitigate, and ensure. Somebody who's a Lieutenant Commander, Dheeraj Yadav. Everyone, come on, let's hear a big one. CISO, Mitigata. Can we hear a big one for you, sir? Thank you.
Well, good evening to all of you. My name is Lieutenant Commander Dheeraj Yadav. So I come from a military background, and my introduction to cybersecurity is when I was 6 years old in 1996. And my uncle, who was serving the army, later I came to know that he was serving in intelligence when he retired and I joined. And he showed me a PC, and I was mesmerized by seeing what this thing is. And there were still games. He played, he pressed a key, and there was one animal's voice out of that. I'm talking about 1996. So all of you veterans know it well, Maid sir. But for me, it was an amazing thing. That is how my interest in computers came. But later on, one fine day, he was not at home, and I wanted to access that. Couldn't. So thought he was asking for some password. I asked my uncle, okay, uncle, can I have the password? He said, in our native language, which is Haryanvi, bhai tod saka to tod le. Okay. And I thought, how can this be done? Sir there is laughing, but how many of us know that when Windows 95 was released, there was the maximum in the first week, all of us do OSINT today, in the very first week, the maximum copies which were bought in Russia. Why I'm saying this is, there was a code released within next 3 months, and the code was called as CHNTPW. Change password, and Windows NT's password could be changed. The code is still very much relevant because the basic architecture of Windows is still the same. So that means we need to know the basics. So we have to start from the basics, and we need to know the basics of any
online footage of that rural area. Thanks for pointing out that. Thank you very much, people. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, a big round of applause, please, for Mr. Sumit Satyasan. Let's hear it. Thank you, sir. All right, next up is somebody who's going to be talking up on the stage, Tech Chalk, prepare, mitigate, and ensure. Somebody who's a Lieutenant Commander, Dheeraj Yadav. Everyone, come on, let's hear a big one. CISO, Mitigata. Can we hear a big one for you, sir? Thank you.
Well, good evening to all of you. My name is Lieutenant Commander Dheeraj Yadav. So I come from a military background, and my introduction to cybersecurity is when I was 6 years old in 1996. And my uncle, who was serving the army, later I came to know that he was serving in intelligence when he retired and I joined. And he showed me a PC, and I was mesmerized by seeing what this thing is. And there were still games. He played, he pressed a key, and there was one animal's voice out of that. I'm talking about 1996. So all of you veterans know it well, Maid sir. But for me, it was an amazing thing. That is how I ask, most of your vendors are using it. We did our due diligence, found out that this most probably is a Chinese state-sponsored C2 server. which you think is a free cobalt strike, but at the end of the day, this is a Chinese state sponsored. We have done our research, we'll be publishing it soon and this is being publicized through LinkedIn mostly. Okay, so these are the scenarios we have to look into picture. So that means on a triage where the information from social media, LinkedIn, that is available. Apart from that, the information when you're doing the scanning, so the human factor, where they have to deploy the human resource, that human resource, the red teaming or the VAPT guy are doing, and the information which we are putting on these AI models like DeepSeek, all this information is a cocktail for disaster. So that means even at our end, as a CISOs, we have to do the due diligence. We need not to know how the particular action is being taken. Like, are we completing all the 350 plus sub-techniques as per MITRE ATT&CK framework? Because that is where the gap might be. In the reconnaissance phase, are we covering during VAPT on red teaming all the sub-tactics? Yes, no, we don't know. We have to see, we have to ask the vendor, please show me the report where you have mapped all the sub-techniques as per every technique. Pre-tactics, enterprise tactics, both. So pre-tactics means that is for the blue team in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. How can you safeguard yourself? And enterprise tactics means the threat actor will be exploiting in this manner. Mapping of every tool on the cyber kill chain. So these are the multiple aspects we cover. And this is the complete solution where threat intelligence, like IOCs, indicator of compromise during doing our own reverse malware engineering when we get samples from our customers. Definitely all of us have to consume from third party also. So a combination of this gives you a full stack resilience solution. Next slide, please. Well, talking about SOC, India's first managed services SOC for 24/7 threat detection and response. Well, this 24/7 means there is supposed to be a human resource deployed. So I'll be talking mostly practical aspects which I, as a CISO, when I was serving at India Shelter, faced and sold through my experience from the military. This 24/7 means my L1, L2, or L3 should be awake even at middle watch. Middle watch, Ambrish being my colleague from Navy. Middle watch means from midnight to 4, every human has a tendency of feeling sleepy. What action should we take at that time? Now you have outsourced your SOC to me. That means that is my responsibility. How will I ensure the human factor? I can put CCTV cameras, but am I going to check CCTV cameras every now and then? We need to change the biological clock of the human sitting there. How do we do that? Every now, CISO or some of the other senior managers should go, check at any random time, every day for 1 week, maybe 5 to 6 days next week, and making it a 24-day cycle. And that is how the cycle changes for the human, and he is available 24/7. Then defense grids. This, all the experience from my defense playbooks, which we remember, implementing those, like the entire process of preparation. The preparation phase means the one basic which is taught in the military, which was also mentioned by one of the lady officers in Mir sir's video, is drill. It is said that drill is the bedrock of discipline. That means you have to carry out the drill every now and then. Most of us, when all of us, including me when I was CISO, I implemented that at some point in time. First time when we face the real attack, that is the time when we realize that, okay, some action is supposed to be taken at my end, some action is supposed to be taken at the SOC vendor's end. I'm talking about CISO, I'm considering you as me. Now what do? Now we are caught by surprise. Half of the time is wasting to find out who's going to do what. Half of the time we are not even sure whether documentation exists or not. That means the very first NIST says identify, protect, detect, response, recover. Yes, definitely. But about the preparation phase? The preparation phase means a documented procedure at your and my end where it is well defined which user, at your end or my end, not by name, by appointment. That is the other mistake we do. We do by name. No, it should be by appointment. What if tomorrow CISO is on leave? So whoever is carrying out the duties of CISO should be prepared. Also, the preparation should happen for everyone one level above. CISO should prepare like a CEO. Deputy CISO or senior most GRC chaps should prepare as a CISO also. Because in case CISO is not available, there is an emergency. Those are the scenarios you have to take into considerations. All the playbook should be defined. From data exfiltration, to ransomware attack, to disgruntled employee. How many of us have actually tested the disgruntled employee scenarios? These days, scattered spider is directly asking, can you come up with, you tell me this is the revenue of the company, this is what you can provide me, and you get this much Bitcoin from me in advance. You may not give me the solution, you may not give me the access to your company. I'm giving you the Bitcoins in advance. Are we prepared for these kind of scenarios? That is where the full stack cyber resilience comes into picture. Because including this, you have to look into the cyber insurance also. Does your cyber insurance cover this aspect of a disgruntled employee, of an ex-disgruntled employee? Have we taken into scenario that an ex-disgruntled employee who has taken, let's say a senior executive who's leaving the organization, who might have committed some crime at the last week and has left the organization. So that means we have to keep a clone of the endpoint. So I'm talking mostly, pain points we had. We should keep the clone of his endpoint for whatever duration we want, because at the end of the day, when DFIR will be conducted, and the DFIR chap, the forensic chap will come, okay, I want the evidences from the end point of that employee. You'll say, wo to humne system format kar diya. That was allocated to somebody else. But yes, there is going to be a cost. You have to go ahead and talk to your senior management. This is the cost, and this is the cost-benefit analysis. Because if tomorrow you have to go ahead with, your cyber claims and all, this will support you more to keep these evidences. For example, let's talk about the threat intelligence. Why do we need it? In a world that changes rapidly, we need to have high quality information the exact moment that we want. So how many of us know what does this second picture means? There is a pizza and there is Pentagon. So this is done by the OSINT chaps. What does this mean? Whenever the pizza order increases in pentagons, there is going to be attack somewhere in the world. That is we are talking the lighter notes, but exactly this is the analogy. The first one where OSINT chaps did their investigation, found out the Pakistanis till now are not able to provide any credible sources. However, we are able to provide with all the evidences. That is when you will be required to provide all the evidences, when your chair will be at stake. When we suffer an attack, the organization, every CEO, every board knows that something may go wrong today or tomorrow. Not at your mistake. There might be a 0 day. There might be a 0 day at vendor. But are you prepared to, talk about that? Are you prepared to take any actions post that? Are you prepared for the compliance side of it, from the regulatory side of it? If it's a 0 day, you can't do anything about it. But are you prepared for that? That is where the basic knowledge of all this thing also comes into picture. That means the CISO should talk to their vendors, how can you help me out to train myself on these aspects? Okay, next slide. Act decisively, command and accept, like I already talked about it. So that analogy was by a US naval submariner. I being a submariner, included that. What he meant was either senior management should learn how to take the action, or it might result in the loss of every human being. That means in a submarine when we are underwater, so I included all the sayings from the submarine squadron. When we are underwater and in the enemy waters, if something goes wrong in the submarine, we have only two choices: either surface the submarine and surrender to the enemy, or go down, get tired. Okay? There is a third option also. Be professionally competent. As Field Marshal Sam Manakshaw once said in his leadership lecture, there are 3 qualities of a leader: professional knowledge, competence, and courage. When will the courage come? Courage will come when we have professional knowledge, when we are competent enough to execute that practically. Okay? So this is the Birdian's S law. How many of us have heard about this? I have to remove the figure out of a donkey out of it. So the analogy says, if a donkey is both, went to, it says that a donkey is, let's say the donkey is feeling hungry as well as thirsty, and you put the donkey somewhere in the center, keep the hay there and keep the water there, the donkey will die of thirst and hunger both because he's not able to take the decision. He will be running to the right. He will decide I'm missing on the thing on the left. Then he will be running to the left, and in the entire scenario, he will die there. What is required is a balanced decision. Okay? That is what is required by us also. We cannot run in all the direction. We have to learn. We have to prioritize. Okay, maybe I can sustain 10 seconds more without having the food, but maybe having the water will give me a little bit of more time. So I'll have to prioritize and I'll have to act accordingly. So as I talked about glitch, so the dark storm, the threat actor says today we and nano teams succeeded in cutting off electricity of NATO countries. And here you can see the communication between one of my the analyst and the communication between glitch. Glitch is the admin of Darkstorm. What exactly the communication is happening? They're talking about that how much is the next ransomware should get. To be very frank, something like that was planned by the something like that was planned by the ISI also in India. They approached the same threat actor. We being part of the same group, we got the intelligence well in advance. We informed our respective agencies, and actions were taken, and our power grid, except that one from my own state, Haryana, there was a little power outage, but we were able to safeguard ourselves. That means we have to have that technology, we have to have that research. So how many of us exactly understand that who exactly is our enemy and where do they operate? Anyone? Our enemies are threat actors. Where do they operate mostly? Dark deep web. How many of us have actually visited dark or deep web till now? Sir has visited. How many of us regularly visit deep dark web? No, we cannot, right? Like I being Navy, I cannot go to Pakistani borders daily, but once I became senior, I have to transfer it to the junior chap. You have to go, I'll make the strategies for you, right? That way, but I have to have the very competent chap who understands it. I cannot just hand over the command of a submarine. Amrish is laughing, my colleague, but I cannot hand over to a very incompetent chap and may result in a disaster. That means, first thing we need to know. Second thing, we need to check the capability of our vendor whom we are handing over. How many of us has asked or go to today, talk to your vendors and ask them, what exactly is the equivalent of Twitter on dark web? Because exactly same thing exists there. The equivalent is pitch. The URL is onion URL, I2P or freenet. So most of your vendors will say Tor. No, that means this exists on Tor, I2P and freenet, 3 different domains. Okay, they release the data mostly on Tor, they communicate, but the senior appointments like a CISOs, most of the senior appointments of dark web, they talk over I2P router these days. Okay, so there is equivalent of dread, which is called as I forgot. Okay, then sorry, there is equivalent of the Reddit. The dread is the equivalent. I always talk in those terms. And there is equivalent of Facebook. There is equivalent of Amazon and all these scenarios. That is where the data you have to get. You have to exfiltrate a lot of threat actor groups also. Okay, cyber forensics, defense grade, cyber security expert, like I coming there, and there are few of the other chaps who are there, being trained by D8, DRDO, and other such experiences we have. We have expertise in SOC analysis, red teaming, incident response, ethical hackers, all these services we provide. Well, these are our partners. An example of the threat intelligence. So this is the output which my analyst and I, the last one was I found out. And these are the first 2, which my analyst found out. That means these are the new threat actors who have emerged today only. What does that mean? That means they have carried out their initial attacks. Post those attacks, they were able to, earn some good amount of money. That means how many of us know how do we do ransomware negotiation? Have any one of us ever done ransomware negotiation? Done it through. How many of us have asked how have they done? I'll give you some examples. You can ask me about any questions whenever you want. So how many of us ask what negotiations are they doing or what exactly are they asking or contacting? They say they are buying out time. How are they buying out time? Anyone, any question, any answer to this? Ma'am? Okay, how is the ransomware negotiation happens? The first thing is, so I'll have to have, talk few things will I have to talk privately. I cannot speak in open forums. I'll try to control as much as I can and, have to be legally very sound. The gentleman there is recording. So a lot of things I couldn't say can come and talk privately. So very first thing is when you say buyout time, I'll give you one very first input. Till the time, let's say you are not able to, find a right vendor to do negotiation, is the ransomware. Most of these chaps these days are the young individuals. So first thing you should do is do a credibility check. We do a credibility scoring within our organization. What does that credibility scoring means? Yadav sir from Deloitte. I and sir was having a discussion and sir said, I have not heard this till now. Sir is into forensics from Deloitte. That means Big Four is telling me that means we are doing something good. That credibility scoring means I talked about multiple forums and multiple channels like Dread, Pitch. That means Twitter account. Like Pitch is the Twitter account equally. We have to see what United States government want to say. These days we go and check Twitter because that is where POTUS speaks. That is where Akira speaks, the famous ransomware group. That is where Clope speaks. How many of us heard about Lockbit ransomware group? What is their profit till now, approximate profit from ransomware, Lockbits? Any guesses? It is 500 million, half a billion, okay? $500 million in last 7 years. Whenever, so there is, Lockbit comes in multiple phases. Right now, Lockbit 5 is running. Okay, so what does this mean? If the gentleman is top camera, I'll ask you, say a few more things, but no worries, we'll talk privately. So Lockbit 5 means Lockbit 4 has gone. The admin will come, he will do some of the other actions, he come with a project plan, which is there is in mind, and we are still trying to infiltrate till now, not able to. But Lockbit will come with a plan, that this is my plan, these are the companies I want to attack and per se. And he will come to come to Pitch, come to Dread, start hiring. He will post job postings there. Job postings includes but not limited to HR, finance. That means apart from your current capability, these are the addition which I want. Ma'am, the finance, because 500 million they have to manage. Maybe they are able to earn 400, 200 million in this quarter. Let's say they also have quarterly targets. Okay, that is there. So all these scenarios we have to look into picture. So as mentioned, these three groups which have come, why I mentioned here is, they have earned, this young group or the young admin have earned enough money that from startup, where he was targeting the individual group through Telegram channels or the company directly and earned enough money, that they are entering this, enterprise phase. Why I mentioned this is, one such group has leaked some information about an Indian company also, whom we are looking into. You have to look into their TTPs. You have to look into their IOCs. You have to map the TTPs and IOCs parallelly. This is called as diamond model. The capabilities of the threat actor. So, how many of us know what is Sun Tzu, Art of War book? It's a Chinese warrior. There is a famous saying by this gentleman. He was there thousands of years back. Know your enemy, know yourself, 1,000 battle, 1,000 wins. That means know your capabilities, know your downfalls, know where you are weak, about your enemy also, and whenever you fight, you will win. That means always play defensive where you are weak. Never ever play, you skip that game, where your enemy is strong. Always go ahead and play the front foot where you are very strong. So that is what the threat actors are doing. They understand our culture and society. They understand the culture and society of CISOs, including but not limited to India, USA, Europe. So that is the scenario and that is the culture they understand. We also have to understand their culture and society. We have to get at least trained, not knowing it thoroughly. You need not to know what is maldev. That is my job. That is my job to design a malware and test our solutions which we are. So in one such scenarios, one of my interns, whom I was teaching malware development, I gave him some code which I was writing, 70% completed. I gave him, okay, test it. He's an intern. Ma'am, he's still, as ma'am mentioned, he's still in the final year. Okay. And he did something. He said, sir, I come up with this thing, and I said, pitch pathetic in the same military terms. You can do better. I did some more changes. On a Sunday night, somewhere between 2:30, so most of that time, me and my team, we are, the red teamers, if there are red teamers, they will understand. That's the time we are active, wearing our hoodie and doing this job which we love doing. I got a ping from him or one of the secure channel which we follow. Sir, I am able to bypass XYZ. A very famous solution which we have also recommended to a lot of our clients. What happens? That means we have bypassed, we have found a zero-day attack, okay? Second thing which we avoid, which I always request all the, cybersecurity companies we meet, even when you find a leak of a company or you found a zero-day about about a company, don't go and openly talk about it. You might get, that fame for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or maybe 2 extra clients. You are putting the entire client base of that one particular company under jeopardy. That means even the CISO's job. Yeah? We all remember what happened with the CISO of one of the companies which we know in India. Half of the community was behind him. I was still serving as CISO. I was the company, community was with him. I was with him. I also recommended him a few things. Okay, go ahead and ask these forensics, and these are the things you have to ask. And definitely, he thanked me later on for a few aspects. All of us are very good at, in governance. But how many of us have ever asked about, okay, whenever you're giving me a report, map it as per, map all your tool as per, cyber kill chain, map all the tactics of the same tool as per MITRE attack framework, including the 350 sub-tactics. And I want the result where you're mapping it, the outcome as per ISO 27001, NIST, PCI, DSS, and HIPAA. That will give you, that is what you're supposed to do, we are supposed to do, and that will make your job very easily, because you have to plan strategically. Your job is to plan strategically. If my CEO used to say, I want to fire every day. I was a submarine, I was torpedo and sonar officer also, additional to being a cyber officer. And I loved firing torpedoes. And one fine day, my CEO being from the same cadre, one fine day called me. It's a very rare occasion, but he said, Dheeraj, I always want to fire a torpedo, but I cannot. I love doing that because I have to do strategic planning for you. I have to look after all the departments. Ambrish being from cyber and electrical department, he wanted to do a lot of things when he became senior. But he's like, Dheeraj, I have to do strategic planning. That is what we are supposed to do. But knowing is very important. So that is one, when we say full stack cyber resilience, means we exactly know how to safeguard our clients. I exactly know where to find what. I exactly know, without having a direct contact with my client, how will a threat actor find information, including OSINT, including deep dark web. One of such clients, when we were doing red teaming, you won't believe, it was a very big client. They said, okay, go ahead and test our environment. We went to dark web, tried to find all the lead credentials. We skipped on that, or maybe the slide I included. So there were lead credentials out of the 18 billion lead credentials. A lot of chaps like us have got access to that. That means I can map everything, your entire history, geography, and civics. We tried mapping those. We found out, okay, there was one admin account. Our LinkedIn profile gives a lot of information. Our job postings, which we do, gives a lot of information. So that LinkedIn these days is a gold mine for hackers. Wayback Machine. I think a lot of us know what is Wayback Machine. I can go back and see how your website was looking in 2021. We tested one of doing red teaming exercise. We found out, okay, and that time, like let's say 7 years back, there was a client who was maintaining their website. The client is no more, so the vendor is no more into existence, maybe to the loss of some other reasons. And the number was also ready to buy, so not using. We bought that number. You have to just pay some extra money and you can buy that number. We registered that domain. And now the email ID is valid, the number is valid. We contacted their financial department, said that, following payment is still pending. They, without checking, they made the payment. How many of us actually have ever seen how someone's card, your access card can be cloned? Seen, not heard, seen. There are some devices which can be used. For example, Flipper Zero. I think a lot of us have heard. There is a device called as LAN Turtle. How many of us have seen the Mr. Robot series, if anyone? No, then go and see. It's amazing. So that is what exactly you're supposed to do and test. The disgruntled employee are doing this. The employee will say, I'm talking about because this scenario we are seeing through our intelligence on dark web. The disgruntled employee is going there and the scattered spider is telling him, this is what exactly you do. You will be, flipper zero will be delivered. Now you have to just scan the access card of the guard. Okay? I'll give you, you'll get a USB rubber ducky, a pen drive, which you'll put in any endpoint. Like if we are able to bypass, let's say a company's XDR, they are also able to do it. So that means a full stack cyber resilience solution is which we want. That includes brand monitoring. So brand monitoring doesn't just mean something on the surface web. Brand monitoring means whether my organization or whether my domain, I come from a manufacturing, so is something about manufacturing, for example, initial access. So threat actors will buy initial access from the dark web. That, okay, a threat actor like Akira, they don't know, like we outsource a lot of things, ma'am. So threat actor Akira will say, okay, I'll not go into initial access, it takes a lot of time and effort. I'll buy it from somebody who's a newbie now, like when these guys were newbie, the 3 chaps. They will buy from them, they'll give them some money. So is there anywhere where the requirement of a particular handle from a particular this thing is coming? Or let's say, somebody on the dark will come to know, for example, any vendors. I'll not name the vendors because this goes against, but let's say XYZ vendors 0 day available, any buy. That means now what we have to do, we already know there is a 0 day in the, let's say, a switch of a particular thread, a particular vendor. What do we do now? We have to do network traffic analysis now in our environment till the time the patching has not been done. Okay? That is where we come into picture. We bring out the full stack cyber resilience. We do the initial gap assessment. The gap assessment that definitely is complementary. We tell you, okay, this is the exact solution you need. Not that, in a planned manner, as per a roadmap, this is exactly you should have. Now, this is the gap which either you are not, as a roadmap, you'll go with something with the board. We all face that problem. Okay, they will say, okay, I have this much budget. Then, sir, you accept it, and due course of time, let's take a, because we have to transfer that risk, let's take cyber insurance. And next time when we have achieved more maturity, definitely the amount will come down. So that is how we have to approach, I think, cyber security, and that is exactly what we provide. Okay, thank you very much. So I think, ma'am, I'll take 2 or 3 questions if you allow me. Any questions anyone has got? I think no question. Thank you very much. Okay, ma'am, I have a question. Okay, offline. I think offline I'm going to get a lot of questions. Apart from that, I have not mentioned a lot of things which anybody who wants to talk about. You just have to look into one thing, culture and society. Once my uncle said, okay, you talk about culture and society as I used to talk when I was young, and he was also a right teamer for our government. He said, okay, I hope you are on the right line. And I said, Uncle, I am doing, a CISO's job. I am on the right line. Well, that we'll have to look into. So exactly what, Mihir sir said at that point in time, morals, ethics, and respect for law. We have to look into this. Second thing we have to look into is a disgruntled employee. That means respect for law may not. But is there somewhere moral or ethics may go down? So a behavior pattern analysis also plays a picture. Whenever we are doing SOC monitoring, so something is called as, remote login failure. Let's say, how many of us know what is remote login failure? Remote login failure. Sir, what is remote login failure as per you? Okay, remote login failure is that one such scenarios. So that is how the rule is defined. We have defined the rule in many manner. We have also defined, okay, we have come up with a new, our own rule, which we have defined in our SOC. Someone who's on notice period. Okay, someone who's on notice period, and then you will have to give the list, and you will have to flag. You have to red flag, these are the employees we want to monitor. Okay, someone who's on remote, and is logging at the time when they usually don't log in. Now you have to look for, next scenario you have to look for is data exfiltration. Now that means the company's data might be going out by a disgruntled employee. One such playbook scenario I've given. Because we have to look at the real-time scenarios, ever evolving. We always say ever evolving threat landscape, ever evolving scenarios, but how many of us are looking into it, are actually thinking in it, especially the vendors. So as once a scenario I've given, So that is how when we say, the defense grid, the example, thousands of examples which we get from the forces and have implemented it. Thank you very much.